Good afternoon. Welcome to Community and Technology, where we connect the global community with news, information, and resources that will help improve your life. We've got a very special show today with a special guest. September is Emergency Preparedness Month throughout the nation. So today we're talking about emergency preparedness, public safety, and we have some really interesting guests with us. We have Miss Debra Benders, who is a resident leader in public housing in Brooklyn, New York. We have Miss Polly Spain, who is a community activist and educator and housing leader on the Upper West Side. And we have Anesta and Raheem Vannoy, who are both very active in emergency communications with our emergency communications team here at City College, WEBT, which is a WHCR emergency broadcast team. So let me begin with Polly. Polly and I and my business partner Doug Frazier, we go back many years, over a dozen years, I believe, with Polly, utilizing community-based technology to help improve public safety and quality of life in public housing. Polly, if you would just tell us a little bit about who you are, and then talk about what we did a dozen years ago.
Okay, so I first met Stu Reid and his partner Doug Frazier, Digital Divide, back in 2011 when I was serving as the president of my resident association, which is the West Side Urban Renewal site here, Site A on the Upper West Side in Manhattan. And I was so amazed at the work that they were doing up in the Bronx with John Johnson, whereupon you could look on your phone and you could actually see what's going on in your lobby of your building. And so I asked them if they could do something where we were at, because we were having so many problems regarding issues, quality of life issues, loitering, and I just felt that if we had something like that, it would help us safety-wise. So they introduced a program called the Virtual Resident Watch Program. And I thought at that time, I said, oh, this is truly innovative. And so they were able to come to our site and they set up the camera system along with the monitor. And this way they taught myself and others on how to use the system. And it really had a huge impact on our quality of life, because at that time, basically, we were being held hostage by drug dealers in the building. The FBI had been to our building several times. They couldn't get rid of the family, etc. And so we had to do something different. I myself was sitting doing resident watch, the traditional resident watch, along with other members in the building. After working all day as a teacher in the public school system, coming home and sitting down, I said, we need something else. So that really helped us to turn the situation around. The program was so great. All the neighbors, everyone really felt safe because basically they could see everything going on in the lobby and the surrounding circumference of the building. So it helped to really alleviate a lot of the issues. And then we also got other presidents involved in the area. So we had basically like a network, and we were the first location in Manhattan, and I can't speak for the other boroughs. I think the Johnson houses might have had it also, but I know that we were the first of its kind to set up the virtual watch program. And we worked with the PSA 6 as well, so that this way we could collaborate and address all the issues that we were having. And, the other benefit was we had free Wi-Fi. Okay. So that was something that we could utilize, because at that time we have a space where young people, anyone could basically learn studying online. But I love the fact that we partnered with City College as well to offer classes. There were doctors that we met with online if you needed health care. So it wasn't just public safety, it expanded into giving us information on job opportunities, on health care, and also, emergency services. So I just want to say that it really did a lot to turn things around. And I'm glad to hear that other locations have taken advantage of the programs that they offer.
Good. Thank you, Paul. I just wanted to lift up, Polly mentioned a young man who has since left us, but John Johnson was a pioneering resident leader out of the South Bronx, out of Mount Haven houses in the South Bronx. And actually, he had the very first camera. He was having difficulty with seniors who were being accosted in the lobby of his building. And we were putting a camera in his office so he could monitor his office, which was right immediately adjacent to the hallway. And he said, "Is it possible to put a camera in the hallway so we could see what's going on?" And we did that. He said, "Wow," just like Polly said, you know, he's at the time, folks were sitting in the hallway. The resident watch folks were sitting in the hallway. And as John used to say, in harm's way. And what were they going to do if they saw something? I mean, you know, mostly seniors, mostly women. And so John said, let's do a virtual tenant watch. He was the one that actually came up with that name, the Virtual Tenant Patrol. And we did one camera there. It was very successful. Channel 12, Bronx News, Channel 12 came out and did a story about us. And it kind of, I won't say it took off, but you know, because we got a lot of resistance from the administration, from the housing administration, but thanks to courageous, pioneering resident leaders like John, like Polly Spain, they said, "Come on, put it in. Let's make it work. This is something that helps us." Polly, I just wanted you to. I remember once you had an experience with a young girl who was being, I think, followed, and the system was able to help you ameliorate that situation. Share that with our audience, if you would.
Yeah, we had a young girl. I think she was about 10 years age at that time. She would come home from school and she had basically like a stalker. And so the parent, of course, alerted us as to what's going on. And so we utilized the system basically to take a picture of the person, and everybody, you know, was able to identify who he was, and we were able to have him arrested. And, you know, because it was very scary for her. He was about in his 30s, and he would actually come into the building and follow her. Okay. So, and that's just one situation. We had other situations as well where there were shootings. Okay. And we, again, were able to ameliorate that situation too, because as I said, we expanded the program at all the different sites. So it was like about a 10-block circumference area where every resident leader decided to get involved in the program, the virtual resident watch program. So it was really great because this way, you know, we all together collectively helped the whole area improve. So no matter where you went, someone could see what's going on. And then sooner or later they figured out, okay, the whole wide world is watching me and my neighbors are seeing me, what's going on. Then, you know, it kind of basically shut everything down, because no matter what they did, where they went, you know, people knew who they were. They lived in a neighborhood, you know, etc. And then their own neighbors said, no, we're not having it. So it helped a lot. Believe me, like in a short period of time, what the FBI couldn't do, what the police department couldn't do, we did. Okay, so I'm so happy that Stu and Doug, in my opinion, I feel strongly about this, that they were pioneers and they really care about the community at large. And then also digital divide, the name itself, there was a digital divide. And so recently, unfortunately, when we had COVID and the school system shuts down, because I work for the school system, that's when the school system had to hurry up and figure out how are we going to help these children, you know, have internet access. And I'm thinking to myself, well, we had it, Wi-Fi and internet access since 2011. Okay. So that, you know, was a way for people to really understand how important it is, especially in our Black and Brown community, for our children to have access to the internet. And it shouldn't take COVID or crises for that to happen. You know, that should have been there. And I'm glad that Mayor Adams right now is coming aboard, you know, where he's providing free internet with Spectrum. But I feel that digital divide, because they're the pioneers and they had the vision, you know, so to me, they should definitely be respected for that, for what they introduced the whole concept. And it took digital divide to wake people up. So I just want to say thank you, Stu, and to Doug as well. And, unfortunately, John Johnson's not with us anymore. But again, it takes people like us to really say, you know what, we got to think out of the box. Okay. And we have, I like what they always said, for us, by us. Okay. Because we live here, nobody's going to help us but us. So we have to take the initiative to do what we need to do and, work with what we have. You understand? That to me is proof that we can change the dynamics. We can change the culture and the narrative. Okay. But it's going to be up to us.
Okay. Okay, and Deb, I'm sure a lot of what Polly was talking about resonated with you. Why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about who you are, your background, and your experience in using technology to help improve your public safety in your community?
Yeah, well, my name is Debra Benders. I'm the Cooper Resident Council president. I've been in this development 60 years, but I've been involved with the Resident Council for more than 30 years, and I've held every position on this board. Outside of the Resident Council, I'm a mother of 4, a grandmother of 11, and I'm involved with a lot of other organizations outside of Cooper Park Resident Council. And this program right here is a godsend. I really appreciate the fact that Stu and Doug have come here through way of Ethel Velez. That's how I met them. And the residents are really enjoying this program. The staff workers here, they enjoy the program because they know when they walk in the building that somebody's watching them. They're not out here by themselves. Somebody is watching them. We did have one incident where somebody's package got stolen. And the lady called me and I looked on my phone and I said, oh boy, I saw the man bring the package in, and about 2 or 3 minutes later, I saw somebody walk out with it. I say, we try not to get the police involved unless we really have to. So I called the neighbor that took the package, and I said, you have an option. You can return it, or I can call the police. And she returned the package. So, you try, there's enough of us black and brown sitting in prison, so you try to alleviate that problem. So if this is how I have to use this program to do that, that's what we can do. And also with this program, the seniors, they feel more comfortable coming in the building. They know somebody's watching them, They feel safe. Kids coming from school, their parent can look on their phone and say, well, my child is on their way home from school. I can let them know whether it's safe to come in the building or not. And like you said about the people hanging out with the drugs, that's a big problem. I think that's everywhere now. So you're able to see who's hanging in the building. You can notify the police in advance that so-and-so's hanging in the building. Can you come remove them? This program, like I said, is a godsend. We're trying to get more people involved with it. Trying to get our elected officials to help pay for things so that we can have a bigger system, not only in Cooper Park House, but all other NYCHA developments. Because when the NYCHA staff go home, we're still here.
That's right.
We have to watch out for each other. You can't rely on the police to be here 24/7. As us as a community, we have to look out for each other. And this program does work. It works. Along with not only that part of the program, but the walkie-talkie aspect, that really works. Because like a lot of times, tenants, they when they have a problem with the hot water or the heat, or just the elevator's not working, you call management or you put that number in for 707, you might want to call for a long time holding on. At least with this, if you're calling me, telling me, or you're on this call saying there's no elevator service, no hot water, I reach out to management myself. Let them know which building and which person don't have these issues, so y'all can address them as well. So I can tell you this program really, really works, and I'm so thankful to have these guys in our lives so that we can bring some new technologies to the system. There's cameras everywhere, so why can't we have it here where we're at so we can watch us?
Yeah, we are watching us is a slogan that John Johnson came up with. It's funny, a funny story. When I first wanted to put signs in the lobby, I took the sign "We are watching us," which is about the community watching itself. I took it to a printer to have him print it. He said, "Don't you mean we are watching you?" I said, "No, no, 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 no. That's not what we're talking about. The we is the residents, and we are watching each other." And the whole idea of this is controlled by the residents. And something I just wanted to footnote the story that Polly told about the young girl that was being stalked. Doug and I, who's my technology partner, we found about it after Polly had made the recording, contacted the police, and already started problem solving the issue. She did that all on her own. She and her team. So, I mean, again, this is the residents taking control of the technology and using it themselves. That's the whole key. And, you know, since our early experience with Poly Spain, going back, I guess, 13 years now, 2011 probably,
Oh, yeah.
it has evolved. And one of the things that Deborah talked about that came out of our working with Miss Ethel Velez, who is the housing leader at Johnson Houses and also Manhattan North Network chair of the whole Manhattan North sector of public housing. Under her leadership and tutelage, we started this walkie-talkie program. And Deborah talked about. I just want to kind of share it a little bit with Polly and Anesta and Raheem, who I think know about it as well. Of course, they know about it because they're part of the team. But what we started with Ethel Velez's leadership and kind of prompting was we put walkie-talkies in the hands of all the resident leaders at Johnson Houses. That's where we started. And they had both a two-way radio that's working on FCC licensed frequencies that works even when the power goes out. And we also had another radio system, and still do, a parallel radio system that works on your smartphone over the internet or over Wi-Fi. Even when your smartphone is not connected, if it's disconnected from your carrier, it still works on the Wi-Fi. Just FYI for you folks out there that might not know
That's
that.
huge.
Even if you've been discoed, you can still go on your phone, discoed phone, and connect to Wi-Fi. And what we found a walkie-talkie program that's free. So what we started was a couple things. One, once a week, we do radio checks. And I'm going to bring Anesta in here in a minute to tell us more about that because she's been one of the early pioneers in that. But we do radio checks once a week, 2-hour window, where everybody on the network is just checking in with each other to make sure the radios are working, make sure everybody's okay, make sure we're practiced on how to talk on the radio. Because one of the things that I learned, and I learned this from Wali Noor, who's going to be on our show next week. He's trained in naval military communications. And I learned about the protocols of how to talk on a mobile network. You don't just get on there and start talking willy-nilly, street talk or whatever. There's ways to talk. There's ways to begin a conversation, to end a conversation, to hand off the conversation. And the whole point is you don't know who's on there, and you want to have a kind of a uniform way of speaking. There may be first responders on there. There may be firemen on there. There may be law enforcement on there. And you want to be able to talk in a language that everybody understands without any slang, without any, what was that? But it's very clear. So we learned, we started a whole series of classes, first at Johnson Houses, and then later at the Cooper Park Houses with Debra Benders, where we taught this protocol on how to talk on the radio, how to open a conversation, how to hand it off, how to finish the conversation. And so in addition to the weekly radio calls that we do, Ms. Velez at Johnson Houses said we need to do building checks. So now we have within each development every morning around 8 o'clock and every evening around 6 o'clock, the building leaders call in and report on the heat, on the hot water, and on the elevators. For those of you that might not know about public housing, elevators are key. So many, most of the developments are elevator properties. Some of them going up 20 stories or more. And when those elevators are down, it is indeed a crisis. You need to know about that. Not only do you as a resident need to know, but building management who's responsible for repairing and upkeep needs to know. And as Deborah was mentioning, you know, often, you know, they kind of pass the buck, play the games. Oh, I didn't get that report. I didn't get that trouble ticket. So when residents take control of the notification and monitoring of those systems, of the elevators, of the heat in the wintertime, of the hot water, residents taking control of it and reporting to each other every morning, every evening, it really changes the dynamic and again puts the quality of life control back into the hands of the residents. So that's something that we didn't have back when we first started with Poly back in 2011 rather, but that has evolved over the years, and it's an integral part of what we're now calling our resident public safety teaching network. And we're calling it that because there's so much that happens on the network. Polly mentioned the free Wi-Fi. That's part of it. And what the internet enables is for us to communicate with each other, to inform each other, to learn from each other, and to share resources that are available on the internet. I mean, the internet is a transformative technology. And it's not just for social media and, you know, talking to your friends. No, it's much more powerful tool. And we need to educate each other and share as much as we can of what we learn from that resource and how to use it. So that has been a recent evolution of our program that we're now calling the Resident Public Safety Teaching Network. But I'd like to turn it over now to Anesta a little bit to talk about the walkie-talkie program, Anesta, and you know how we use that and your experience in that. Okay,
First of all, I would like to say I'm glad to be on, and Raheem and I, we appreciate you getting us on here. The walkie-talkie, I'm going to just talk about the walkie-talkies that we use in Hen. This is the new one we just got. And we use Zello. Raheem is bringing up Zello right now.
That's one of the applications, one of the walkie-talkie applications that we use. Smartphone application that we use.
Yeah, there's the Zello one. The Zello one is on the phone. This is, like I said, I just got it a few days, 2 days ago. It's a brand new walkie-talkie that does not require a FCC license. And this is important. This is exactly probably the same thing that you guys are using in the residence to communicate with each other. I live in Fishkill, New York, and I was able to reach people in Harlem using this radio this week.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was a really great thing. And radios are so important, especially during this time of climate change and this time of political unrest. We need radios. As some of you may remember recently, certain businesses and government organizations have lost their ability to use the internet, some of the phones. When these things happen, we say in amateur radio, now I'm talking about a licensed amateur radio operator, which I am. We say when all else fails, we can use radio. Stu, let me know about 2 minutes before I have to stop talking. Let me tell you about amateur radio. Why is it called amateur radio? And I'm going to be reading. Amateurs are strictly forbidden to receive money or compensation for our activities. So that keeps it amateur. We use it to provide communications for a parade or a charity activity. We cannot accept a fee for any of that. We keep it free so that we can explore and improve and train for what we do. Amateur radio operators is recognized as a national asset, providing trained operators and technical specialists and disaster response communications in time of need. Now that's what Stu, Raheem, and I, and Wali, when he gets on, that's what we do. We do emergency communications. Sometimes it's called MCOM, capital E-M and then capital C-O-M-M, MCOM, emergency communications when all else fails. Some hams or some amateur radio operators just focus on technology. They like the science of it, of the radio. Some operators like to just compete in events and get awards for how many people they can reach. They like stuff like that. Then you have us who train to support in the case of emergency response, and we provide public service. Some people just use it to keep in touch with their families. That's important. And then there's people who just like to talk to other people. And so hams do that also.
Okay, Anesta, let me just interrupt you for a moment because we have to take a station break for ID, and we got a musical break coming up. So you're listening to WHCR 90.3 FM, the voice of Harlem, with very special guests, Anesta Vannoy, Raheem Vannoy, Polly Spain, and Debra Benders, all very active community leaders and activists in helping to improve public safety in New York City, Harlem, Brooklyn, and other parts of the city. And when we come back, we're going to talk about the upcoming Harlem Emergency Preparedness Day event coming up next Thursday on the 26th at City College from noon to 4 p.m. But we're going to take a brief musical break, and we'll be right back. Stay tuned. Okay, we're back. Community and technology, special edition on community emergency preparedness. And we have a special guest with us today, Debra Benders, Polly Spain, Anesta and Rahim Vannoy. And we've just been joined by the very noted Wali Abun Noor, who for many of us here at WHCR Emergency Broadcast Team is the father of our emergency communications. Welcome, Wally.
Welcome. Well, thank you
Okay.
for inviting me.
Okay, absolutely. So before the break, Anesta was sharing with us her experience with walkie-talkies. And Anesta, I was amazed to hear you say that your off-the-shelf, unlicensed, when I say unlicensed, not needing FCC permission or permit, walkie-talkie was able to reach from Fishkill, New York to Manhattan. Did I hear you correctly?
Yes, you did. I did radio check with Wale. We did it with, I think, Carol and a few other people this week. With radio, we did radio check on the Zello, but we also did it on this rapid walkie-talkie, and it worked fine. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have a regular radio also, which is a radio that I cannot use unless I have an FCC license.
Mm-hmm.
But this radio was clear and it worked well.
Wow, that's amazing. Wally, I'd like Wally to just give a little bit of history about the WHCR Emergency Broadcast Team, which was created, I think it was late 2012 or early 2013. Wally, can you give our listeners a little bit of background about how that started?
Yes. Basically, it started with the Community Emergency Response Team, CERT. And we were working at radio station WHCR, and we were trying to figure out how to get the station to stay online if the grid went down. So we got word that they were going to have a emergency, a community emergency team. So we thought maybe we could get some information there. So we went over and we joined that, and we never got the information, but the kind of information that we did get, we hung around. And part of that information, that was like in 2005. And part of that information was about community. First, naturally, we learned about personal emergency preparedness. And the curriculum that they had actually was very good because it made you aware of all of the emergency situations throughout the city, the subway, how to stop a train. Quite a bit of information was given out. So it got to a point where they had a community emergency preparedness class, and that's where I realized that that's really kind of what I would be interested in. And from that, we started an organization called Citizens Emergency Response Network, because it seemed like there was kind of like a ceiling as to how much you could do in the community on your own with just CERT. So we wanted to kind of branch out a little more. And so we started an organization called Community Emergency Response Network. From there, I think we went back down to the radio station and decided that, no, what happened after that was that Sandy came along.
Right.
And when Sandy came along, by working with the radios with the Community Emergency Response Team, we realized that the trouble that was happening out in Far Rockaway, and it was, I listened to it all night, and it was like being on at a battle. It was like you would think you were in a war.
Let me just interject, Wally. That's Superstorm Sandy, who our listeners who may not know, when you said Sandy, may not know what you're talking about. You're talking about that horrific storm that we had in 2012.
Yeah. And so it had gotten so bad out there that the police station was underwater. Military trucks were stuck in mud. People were in their houses on the second floor, hearing the water bounce up on the ceiling of the first floor. I mean, it was really bad. And I could hear all of this going on the radio. And that's what made me realize that, hey, we need to have some kind of communication like that up in this end of the woods. So I was involved also with citywide disaster services. So we got them to come up to the radio station, and that's when we put together WHCR EBT. And we asked Angela Harding, the station manager, if she would mind if we, set up something like that. And she was all for it. And so we really kind of developed it very well. The only problem that we ran into is the problem that all organizations run into is money. Because after we trained everybody, then we had to get radios, and we really didn't have money for the radios, and we couldn't ask people that's volunteering to come up with the radio. So that kind of slowed us down a little bit. But we wanted to stay in it. And so therefore, we kind of figured out how to make it work. And so we divided up into two different parts. The part that WEBT stayed to take care of the station in emergency, because emergency broadcasting is much different than regular station broadcasting. And then we had our group out into Harlem to report back as to what was going on in the streets. And so from there, it just started expanding and expanding. And now it's up into the Bronx, Upper Manhattan, people from Brooklyn, NYCHA is involved. I mean, it really kind of branched out, and it's still growing. And that's pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's pretty comprehensive. The one other little footnote that I wanted to add is during Superstorm Sandy back in 2012, the radio station WHCR 90.3 FM had to go on autopilot because people were not able to get into the station. I mean, the flooding and the disaster was so bad that the on-air talent or on-air people that do the shows couldn't get in. So we had to go on auto programming for much of that time. So what we also learned, and since innovatively with the work of Wali and Angela Harding and our resident technology genius, Doug Frazier, figured out was how to run and program and go on the air remotely. So that now in an emergency, we don't have to be in the studio at WHCR. We can just log in remotely through our computer or tablet or whatever and give updates and information. And like Wally said, one of the key pieces of what we did was we recruited folks in the community to become essentially community reporters, to let folks know what was going on in the community. One of the other things that we learned at Superstorm Sandy, and I guess a lot of folks in the community knew this before then, was that when there's a disaster, weather disaster or blackout or whatever, most of the media reporting is about downtown. It's not about the communities where we live, in Harlem and Brooklyn, the outer boroughs, the Black and brown communities. you don't see that much or hear that much focus on what's going on with our folks. So a key aspect of the WHCR emergency broadcast team was to recruit and train folks in the community to report back to the radio station about what was going on in emergency. So
Can I
now we
say
have
something?
a way to collect and disseminate information about what's going on in our communities and push it back out to the community, not just on the walkie-talkies, but over the FM radio signal, which is over the air as well as online, as long as the internet's working. It's on whcr.org. And
Can I
we
say
also
something?
established a website, emergency website, whcrebt.org. And that website is dedicated to emergency preparedness and emergency communications. We have live shots of what's going on in the studio at WHCR, so you can see and hear what's happening on a live basis. And we have links to Notify New York and other resources that are available and helpful in emergencies. Wally, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that the fact that what you said was the main reason why we did it.
Yeah.
That was actually the main reason why we did it. That you know, so that the community would know what's going on in the community, not what's going on downtown.
Mm-hmm.
Or they could know what's going on downtown also, but this way they would know what's happening outside their door.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, again, you know, the cornerstone of what we do, and when I say we, I'm talking about the WHCR emergency broadcast team and our various affiliates, including Digital Divide Partners, and more recently the Smart Community Initiative, which is our nonprofit partnership with resident leaders. What the whole issue, the whole mantra is to put the tools, the applications, and the services in the hands of residents, because the residents know what they need, they know what they want. So it's not any top-down stuff. It's not the experts coming in and say, here, do this, do that. No, it's from the ground up. So you know, we put the tools out there, and the residents themselves go to work, you know, putting the applications together, making stuff happen, and, you know, using the technology in innovative ways that, you know, probably a lot of folks didn't even think about, because they're not on the ground with the rest of us trying to survive and get by and feed our families and take care of everybody. So that's kind of been our mantra, and it's kind of infused everything that we do. I want to talk a little bit about, before we go, we got about maybe 10 minutes. I want to talk about the upcoming Harlem Emergency Preparedness Day event, which is next week, next Thursday, September 26th, on the campus of City College in the WHCR radio event space. And for folks who may not know, City College is located at Convent Avenue and 138th Street in Harlem on the west side. The event is free to the public. I'm going to give you a phone number. If you call and register, we got free lunch for you. It's from noon to 4 p.m. next Thursday, September 26th, at WHCR Radio. Going to be a lot of presentations on things like CPR. The fire department is going to demonstrate CPR. You can learn about that. Harlem Hospital is going to be there talking about fire suppression techniques and evacuation techniques. Ms. Carol Johnson from East Harlem Co-ed is going to be there talking about senior support during emergencies. You know, during emergencies, pardon me, seniors have special needs. I'm a senior myself, so I can speak about it. You know, we don't move as quickly as we used to. Maybe we don't hear as well as we used to. And we need extra support and guidance sometimes, particularly in an emergency where you got to act quickly. You got to move. And the whole idea about this event that we're having next week is to make plans for an emergency. As one of our colleagues says, he couldn't make it today, Mr. Bob Ponce, don't be scared, be prepared. And so when an emergency comes, you got a plan. So you're not just reacting. You're not letting adrenaline drive you crazy. Oh, I got to do this, that, and the other. No, you already have an idea. You got a plan laid out. Where you're going to go, what you're going to do, who you're going to call, how you react in an emergency. So that's what this event is about next week, next Thursday, September 26, 2024. I want to bring in just very briefly Ms. Carol Johnson, who just joined us. She's from East Harlem Co-ed. Carol, just briefly tell us who you are and what you're going to talk about next week, if you would.
I am Carol Johnson. I'm the disaster liaison for the East Harlem Co-ed Community Organizations Active in Disasters. I'm so happy to join you. You know, anybody who's in this fight is my comrade, you know, because it's a heavy fight. But, you know, you gotta have the stamina to keep up with it. We're going to talk about basically seniors first allowing their family members that they're living with, because oftentimes we have intergenerational families. Those family members need to inform their housing management that this person may have mobility issues, maybe using equipment that requires electricity in the case of a blackout. If there's an evacuation, that they need to be moved out before anyone else. And this is something we just implore people to get into their heads. People don't want to tell you what's going on in their apartments. And sometimes people don't want to tell you what their difficulties are, but it could cost you your very life. You know, we're going to talk about go bags, how to pack a bag a little differently for a senior, you know, people who wear glasses, people who may use CPAP machines. Make sure you have information on your medicine, contact lenses, cleaning solution. But with the medical equipment that you use, that oftentimes people don't realize you may have a nebulizer that is still working. Call your insurance company and ask, how soon can I get another one? You may be able to get one within 3 to 5 years. You take that old one that's still working, or take the new one, whichever one. Use the old one, and when that one stops working, you would have the other one and trade them out. You know, and that also goes for having battery operated radios, because a lot of us seniors are not watching TV. We're losing our sight, you know, we're losing our hearing. And so it's important to have a battery operated radio, two-way radio, you know, and headsets so that it blocks out the external noises. You know, if you use a cane, you may not think about grabbing your cane if you have to evacuate, but you can have a fold-up cane right outside in a pocket on your bag that you can snatch out and use it. You know, because if you have to go to a shelter, those things are not going to be readily available, so you're kind of stuck where you are. But you know, something to read. You know, everybody seems to be doing Game Boys now. A phone, a charger, a cable. Let people know where you're going. And one thing, having a backup plan. You know, talk to your family members and see if you can evacuate to their homes. If you're going to be out of your home for more than a day, then you need to have clothing, some snacks, some waters. You can also talk to your medical company about getting extra medication that you can trade out every month. You've got the printout plan from the medication. Put that in your bag, you know, make it very light and bearable. You know, so these are the things that we're going to talk about: exercising, moving around your house, give yourself as much mobility as you possibly can. But most importantly, if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. Okay. And being that we're aging, and I'll end with this, we operate on the yo-yo plan. I don't care how old you are. You can create a plan for safety, and you can always reach out to groups like us, and we will help you create a plan. That's at the East Harlem COAD, East Harlem COAD @gmail.com.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Carol Johnson. And for folks who don't know, yo-yo means you are on your own. So it's all about having the skills, the knowledge, and being prepared so that, you know, nobody's coming for us to help us. We got to be able to help ourselves. So we're just about out of time. I want to give out our phone number for the event for next week. It's 212-650-7481. That's 212-650-7481. Call, register, and you got a free lunch. And last year, the food was scrumptious. From a Harlem soul food restaurant, it was very delicious.
Yes.
So any parting comments? Deb, you have any parting comments before we sign off?
No, well, anyone who hasn't taken these courses, they need to, because this is really important to bring this to everybody in the community. Because it's us watching us, not nobody else watching us, us watching us.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Polly?
That there's so many different to the point where now we have expanded our ability to be able to support our communities at large. So I just again want to say thank you to you and Doug, Stu Reid, for the pioneer work that you've done, and keep it going.
Thank you. Anesta, any final comments?
Yes, emergency communications could be done by anybody, any age. You do not have to be mobile. It could be done on foot. It could be done in a car. It could be done in your home. You do not have to go someplace to do emergency communications. You could do it from your home. And what has been said is important, that you are the one that you are waiting for in the event of an emergency. You cannot wait on the government or some other organization to come and help you. You must be able to take care of yourself in the beginning of an emergency. You have to take care of yourself and your neighbors and your family and your pets.
Mm-hmm. Wally, any closing comments?
Just copy off of what Anesta said. You are the first responder. People think that, you know, the police and the fire department are first responders. If you're on the scene, if the situation is there, like she said, they're not coming for you, you are the first responder. And, you know, also, you need to take the lessons that you've learned and start what other groups that you have. See if you can get their interest to start to develop a network, an emergency network. The more people that are educated in this and the more people that work together in this, the safer we all will be.
Okay, thank you, Wally. This has been Community and Technology Special Edition on Emergency Preparedness with Polly Spain, Debra Benders, Anesta Vannoy, Carol Johnson, and Wali Abun Noor. Final reminder, next Thursday, September 26th, 12 noon to 4 p.m., Harlem Emergency Preparedness Day at City College, WHCR Radio, and the event space. That's 138th Street and Convent Avenue. Come on by and learn about all this emergency preparedness, emergency communication, and call an RSVP and enjoy a free lunch. That number for registration, 212-650-7481. This has been Community and Technology on WHCR 90.3, the voice of Harlem, every Wednesday, 5 p.m. Tune in. Just might learn something. Thanks. Good night.